Can't get that one to go. Rebounded by Mitzi. Mitzi puts it in.
Beat gets it. We're going to go up on Joy, and it's good off the basket.
Morgan, Sammy Ashton all alone for the quick lay-in.
Buster with the deep two, and it's good. Has the ball at bounce, passes into Grigo for three, and that's 1,000 points.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcomed inside of Haddam Killingworth High School for tonight's out-of-conference matchup between the boys Haddam Killingworth Cougars and the Manchester Indians. I'm Ross Meglin, joined by my partner, Hattie Hall. And Hattie, what are you looking for most in tonight's matchup?
Manchester is definitely a bigger team, so we're going to have to see a lot of HK on defense. Jack Spooner is out for this game, but the starting lineup should be the same as always.
It will be a difficult game for HK, as the Indians are 6-1 coming into this game, and HK fell to 0-7 on Monday night. So the big thing for HK this year for the boys team is how many seniors they lost last year and how different their team is this year. They lost a total of 8 seniors last year and pretty much 4 starters. So that's a significant portion of their team gone. How does the team bounce back from that a season later?
I mean, they're dealing with a completely new team. Some of these kids might have been on JV last year, but varsity is a completely different game with the intensity that these kids are bringing.
And not only did the team undergo a loss of seniors, a whole new coaching staff came and went last year, with Coach Asadorian and Coach Kelly leaving us in the winter of last year, and now Mr. Abbott coming in as their new head coach. So how does the team so young have to reset after all the seniors and a new coaching staff coming in? It's all new for HK this year.
I mean, the new coach especially, I've heard great things about him and the JV coach, and I know that them especially have been bringing the whole team together. Even though they're dealing with the struggle of losing all the seniors last year, they're definitely able to interact and know all the players before we get to the big games like this one.
And Coach Abbott had described this year's team as definitely young, as we had stated, and they're growing and they work well together. Although they might not be winning games, they're definitely playing well on the court. All right, so what we know about Manchester is they're very good, obviously. We're watching them in pregame warm-ups. We're watching them right now as they're doing their pregame warm-ups more. They're really athletic. They're massive. They have some really big kids on this team. They're aggressive. They're one of the best in the state. And Coach Abbott says that it's going to be a challenge for HK to defend them, and it's going to be tough for HK to put points up on the board.
I mean, even from the warm-ups, you can see they have a lot of sharpshooters, able to shoot threes with no problem at all. And I know that's with no pressure, but if they're doing this well now, how are they going to be in the game?
HK is a pretty solid team defensively so far this year, although they haven't been making baskets. That's been their downfall. They can defend teams, they play low-scoring games, but having games where you give up a certain amount of points, you're just not going to win if you're not making baskets.
The tough thing about Manchester as well is they have plenty of players to sub in at any time, and with HK for varsity at least, yes, we have a lot of players, but the coach is not as confident with some players rather than others for playing this intense of a game.
That's right. Just taking a look down at both teams warming up, the depth that Manchester has is massively more than HK, although HK does have both their JV and their varsity teams out there. So the captains for HK, Jackson Parmentier and Matt Wills, their teammates and coaches have described both of them as doing a fantastic job so far leading the team this year. in their 0-7 start, Jackson Parmentier being a senior and Matt Wills being a two-time captain, will be a junior this year and a senior next year. And how important is it to have a leader, a tough leader, to get you through such a start and a season that's going this way for HK?
I mean, especially at games like this, having someone that's going to keep everyone positive, even when, for this game, for instance, when it's definitely going to be a lot tougher to get points up on the board, you have to have somebody that's going to keep all the team together and still willing to play and having the motivation to actually do their best even when the score might not be that great.
That's been the tough thing. We talked to Jackson Parmentier, and he described how in most of their games that they've lost, having one bad quarter has been the reason they've really come to a loss. Having other teams go on runs and turnovers have been a big thing for HK, and obviously on top of not making baskets, that's a formula for any team to lose. So we look for HK not to have as many turnovers in tonight's game.
Yes. We saw it last night at the girls' game. You can see when they had that streak from Old Lyme, you can tell the team really gets down, and I think that HK really needs to focus on having that not happen tonight, because if they're not motivated, then it's going to affect their performance and how the game goes overall.
A lot of miscues last night in the girls' game for both Old Lyme and HK led to, it came down to the final shot, but with the missed foul shots and missed opportunities, it really lost HK the game earlier than it did later. So HK is looking to play just about a flawless game tonight in order to compete well and hopefully win. But we'll see as the game clock is down to 1:30. So the difference with the size of Manchester is that they're so much taller, and in the turnover conversation that HK can't afford to do tonight is just getting rebounds, and that's going to be extremely difficult with Jack Spooner on the sideline, who is a big man, and he gets a lot of rebounds. But to compete with these kids that are 6'4", 6'6", 6'8", even, that's just going to be tough for HK to compete with.
We do have a smaller team height-wise, but definitely defensively, I think they make up for it. But when they get into the paint, I think they have to just watch out and try to just go around whoever's defending them, because that's definitely going to be a challenge tonight with the height that Manchester is bringing.
I anticipate HK having a lot of shots. They're not going to be penetrating that often. They're just going to be taking a lot of perimeter shots, and they're not going to get inside very easily.
And even though HK is 0-7 so far, their next game will be tomorrow night at home against Valley Regional, and then on Saturday they will be away at Creed. On Monday it's going to be away at Coggins-Chog, and on Thursday it'll be against East Hampton at home. So stay tuned for all of those. As far as Manchester, they do play HK tonight. Tomorrow they play South Windsor at home and Plainville at home on Tuesday the 16th.
All right, we will now pause to learn the starting lineups and for their national anthem.
Hello and welcome to Killingworth High School for tonight's boys basketball game between the Manchester Indians and your Haddam Killingworth Cougars. We ask that you please respect all decisions made by contest officials and school supervisors, refrain from talking over and heckling and use of inappropriate language, and that you respect athletes, coaches, cheerleaders, and other families. Noise makers and confetti are not allowed to show up for contests. Spectators are asked to stay off the court between games and at halftime. The Healthy Communities Healthy Kids Coalition would like to remind you that smoking anywhere on RSPC 17 property is prohibited. Please help make the property smoke-free. And here are tonight's starting lineups. First for the visiting Manchester Indians. At forward, the senior number 1, Shannon Brett. At guard, the senior number 3, Ryan Arroyo. At the other guard, the junior number 5, Morgan Tomlinson. At forward, the senior number 23, Jamil Valdez. And at center, the senior number 2, Taylor Gamblot. The Indians are coached by John Reiser, assisted by Steve Reed and Derek Molden. And now for your Haddam Killingworth Cougars. At guard, the senior number 11,
here we go. So, what are we going to be looking for HK to do right off the bat in the game?
Right off the bat, they definitely can't press, but I think that you're going to see a lot of that from Manchester just because of the amount of players they have to sub in. HK, they definitely, like we said before, they have to be there defensively because that's how we're going to be able to get those plays back and forth.
So HK's got their starting 5 now on the floor. So the big thing for Manchester tonight is they're missing their big man. Malik Cameron, he's 6'8". He is big. He's a big guy. He's 6'8", and he can dunk. He lobs the ball off the backboard to himself, to his teammates. His teammates lob it to him. It's a highlight reel each game that he's on the floor.
Even with him missing, the shortest man on the floor for Manchester right now is 6 feet 1 inch.
That's a big lineup. That's HK. Can't really compete with that. Matt Wills and Jack Spooner are their 2 biggest men. And Matt Wills will be in for the tip, which is won by Manchester. So it seems as HK is in a man defense to start. And Manchester will lay it in and take the first bucket of the game. Full court press started with Manchester on HK. HK broke that somewhat easily. And Toby Callender will pass it right back to Manchester. And Jackson Parmentier's going to take a charge. That's what we're going to be looking for Jackson to take a lot of tonight. We know in recent games that he does that a lot. If we flash back to last year, or 2 years ago even, we say he got dunked on, but it was a charge. Well, we'll never forget that, though. That'll be in HK history forever.
I mean, you might even see it tonight considering the height of some of these players.
We might. A pass right through all 5 HK defenders. So after 2 buckets, HK will call an instant timeout. Less than a minute into the first quarter. So Coach Abbott for HK is not going to deal with anything. They're not going to let Manchester go on any runs. Manchester's one of the top teams in the state. They competed with East Catholic, who is top of the state. They're top of the line, and they competed them for the first half, basically. So HK is not going to let anything get out of hand. They're not going to try to get anything out of hand early.
The thing that HK needs to realize is they need to capitalize on all of Manchester's mistakes, even the small ones, because with this kind of game, they're going to need all the points they can get. And if they can get a turnover, that's what's going to count.
That's true. So, and 1 for HK. Sending Matt Wills to the line. The early going so far for HK is going pretty much as to plan. It's a 3-point play executed by Matt Wills, the junior captain. So HK is flipping into a 2-3 zone. Fast ball movement by Manchester, and that's a deep 3, and he hit it.
That was Jevin Frett of Manchester.
Consistent full court press from Manchester. That's Andrew Kuhn going to break it himself. He's triple teamed. He tosses it out of bounds in attempts for Jackson Parmentier. Manchester is definitely showing a fast-paced athleticism this far. And back-to-back threes makes it 10-3. 2 minutes into the first quarter. And that pass is stolen. Passed around, and the foul. That basket's good. So just like that, it's 12-3. Manchester on top.
And they're subbing in Colin O'Brien for Andrew Kuhn. As we saw in the warm-ups, though, Manchester definitely has no problem with their sharp shooting for threes.
Just an exchange of a three-point play from Manchester. Jackson Parmentier, the primary ball handler, loses that, no foul called. And this is all Manchester, and he throws it down. One of the first dunks we might see tonight, wide open in the lane. So they get it over the press to Jackson. Passes it inside to Wills, and that's stolen. Pass up again. And a travel's called before the basket's taken. A consistent full court press, even with the lead. So that ball's loose underneath the paint. Tipped around and brought down by Manchester. Slowing it down now. Driving. And he lays it in. A commanding offense from Manchester. It's not going to be another stolen pass. And they're going to count the basket and one. NHK will take their second timeout of the first quarter. 19-3. The first timeout was taken when it was just 4-2, and that was just over a minute ago. 19-3. That is unbelievable. That's a quick run.
Especially in the first few minutes of the first quarter.
We're just less than 3 minutes into the game. 19-3. Well, we're seeing a full court press from Manchester, which is not exactly what Coach Abbott expected to see, and it's somewhat evident, and I can almost guarantee that's what they're talking about right now in their timeout.
If HK does decide to do a full court press, however, they don't have that many people that they can actually sub in, especially with Jack Spooner being injured for this game and maybe for more of the season.
Talking to Jack before the game, he wasn't sure. He said he was day-to-day before the game started today, but he's going to put an O next to his name. He's going to say he's out for the time being. Another thing with the full court press, if HK is to full court press them, as the second that Manchester can break it, they can make it 2-on-1, 3-on-1, and it's over for HK at that point. So out of the timeout, it'll be an and one three-point play attempt, I should say, for Manchester. Try to break 20 points in just less than 3 minutes. And they'll do it. 5 minutes to go in the first. Consistent full court press from Manchester. That ball's knocked out of bounds. It'll stay HK ball. Passed out to Darren Hiller. He'll take a three. No good. Won't go. Toby Callender hits it off. And it'll be Manchester's ball. Long distance passes from Manchester. No look pass. Cross court passing, almost toying with HK's defense right now. Pass inside, tipped around. That'll be a three. Air ball. Knocked away, and again, Manchester will come down with it. That's what we were talking about before, with HK having to get the rebounds, both offensively and defensively, and has not been the case thus far. One of the first miscues for Manchester as the ball sails out of bounds. Yet it is still 20-3, halfway through the first. Some subs coming in for Manchester.
What we keep seeing from Manchester whenever HK gets the possession is when they're pressing whoever's point guard, they double up on him But if HK can get it to whoever is not covered, then that would be perfect for them.
We saw it just right there with Jax Parmentier
Exactly.
being fouled instantly. The second he got over half court, he was easily double teamed, and he was fouled on the pass over to Darren. Something different that we're not going to see tonight, that we did see last night, was that the girls team had what they consider to be 4 solid ball handlers, and with HK, and that's going to be a no foul call, and the basket's good.
They are heavily relying on Jackson and Darren Hill for ball handlers in this game, though. So they're not as at an advantage as they were last night with the girls' game, but someone's going to have to step up.
So Tobin Callender's denied at the rim, but he will be fouled and sent back to the line. Lots of noise coming from the Manchester side. So HK is not going to put up any defenders as Toby sinks the first. They will concede the rebound and be fully prepared on defense. Callender sinks them both. 22-5. 3.5 to go in the first. No look pass out to for almost a 3-look. Lots of passes, lots of good ball movement from Manchester. Jackson Parmentier is going to take this all the way himself. Drives, passes out to Wills. Wills will take it. Won't go. And that's rebounded by Manchester. Pass out, and that ball will sail. And it'll be HK ball.
With this much of a lead, Manchester's starting to sub in some of its JV players.
The JV game wasn't all fun and games for the HK team. That was a 40-point spread as a final score.
The score was pretty even until coming back from halftime, and then in the third quarter, they just kept building on that lead until it was 40 points to finish.
That's right. It was much like the first quarter of this game, how it started off somewhat fair, and then it really exploded towards the end. Colin O'Brien driving. And he'll be fouled, and he'll be sent to the line. The majority of HK's points are coming via the free throw. Sub in for HK. So a fast-paced drive for Manchester. Offensive rebound, puts it back up, and he lays it in. A very repetitious game plan so far for both teams. Matt Wills getting some ball handling time up top. And that ball will be picked up. Tossed down court. Open is Wills. Trying to put it in himself, and he will. 26-7. Cross-court pass. Up top. Loses the ball. Finds a Manchester hand. Driving. And it won't go. Knocked out of bounds. And It'll be Manchester ball underneath. Easy pass inside. Ball won't fall. And Manchester finds a way to make it work. 28-7 with under a minute to go in the first. Darren's denied at the rim. All the jump balls, all the 50-50 balls, that's a 3 for Manchester. Won't fall. Rebounded by HK. But all the 50-50 balls that are tipped around a few times are almost 100% of the time won by Manchester. And that goes back to the height difference and the size difference we talked about in the open. Matt Wills continues to get the majority of the ball handling up top. Jackson Parmentier taking a rest and will probably sit out the rest of the first quarter. Matt Wills is denied, gets his own rebound. Denied again, puts it up. It won't fall. Loose ball all the time. And that will be laid in by Manchester again. And that is how the first quarter will come to a close. 30-7. A football score at the end of one. So what adjustments do you think HK is going to be attempting to make as we enter the second half of the first half?
I mean, with such a fast-paced game as it is right now, I know that at some point during the second quarter, Matt is definitely going to need a break. But since he took Jackson out during the first quarter, he's had time to rest. So I think that with this, he's going to sub in Jackson like he did right now. And then Zach Kaufman is coming in as well. So with that, he's going to give the other players a little bit of a rest because they definitely need it with Manchester continuing to press even with the other players subbing in.
A lot of the tactic Coach Abbott has had so far in the year is when games have gotten out of hand, much like this one so far, he's subbing in a lot of players often, and a lot of the younger kids. He won't play, although the team is significantly younger. They only have 3 seniors, and that's Jackson Parmentier, Jack Spooner, and Zach Light. He's not going to play the seniors. He'll play the kids that he's going to be coaching with next year. He wants them to have the experience and have the time. So in a game like this, you want to rely on your stars, I feel like. You're going to want to rely on Matt and Jackson to go to the rim and get the buckets, which we have not seen so far much of that tonight.
They really haven't had the opportunity, though, because they've been just doubled up on every single time they try to go back for the possession. And I think with Jackson out, Matt Wills was definitely looking for Parmentier for all of his shots to pass to before he made them. But when number 42 for HK came in, he was definitely able to help a little bit.
So that's going to be a defensive foul on Jackson Parmentier, his first minutes in. That ball's tipped, and Jackson Parmentier's got an open lane. Fakes one man out. Won't fall, and Zach Kaufman puts it up, and it won't fall. Out of bounds. Staying white ball. Jackson Parmentier to inbound. Jackson Parmentier is describing how they're not a very selfish team. They will do that extra pass to get the basket. And you can see that right now as Colin O'Brien wide open under the basket. We'll do that extra pass. But it did not pay off that time, as we'll go back down with Manchester. Rebounded by HK. Zach Kaufman, a big rebounder for HK. Jackson Parmentier taking the majority of the time. Gives it to Wills. Rebounded by Manchester. They'll pass it out of bounds. It should be HK ball.
Subbing in Andrew Kuhn and Darren Hiller.
Both of those guys are pretty sharp shooters. They can take deep range, mid-range shots. You won't see them driving in, getting the easy layups, but they're both fast. Darren has a pretty good base-to-baseline time as he passes that one off to Kuhn. And Hill will lose it.
Sharp shooters, they're going to have a little bit more trouble on rebounding just because of the height that Manchester is able to, even with their arms up, I don't think they're going to really have the chance to even get the rebounds for HK.
That's a three. Won't fall. Rebounded by Darren, however. Off the side of the backboard. Foul called, going down Manchester's way. Subs on both sides. Toby Callender checking in, taking out number 34, Zach Kaufman. Much slower pace offense here from Manchester. Manchester working inside, coming back out. Floater will fall. 32-7, the first points of the second quarter. So HK stopped Manchester from going on too much of a run so far. And that pass will be wide of Toby Callender. Lots of subs for Manchester now. HK is sticking with their starting, not necessarily starting five, but with their core lineup. That's a three from Manchester. Won't go. Rebounded by Wills and picked up by Hiller, who will take it himself, and it will be stolen. Travel on Manchester. Jackson Parmentier hits a shot. 32-10. Oh, and Jackson's going to take another charge, his second of the night. He's taking a beating right now, but that's his goal. He does that every game you watch him play. He attempts to take a charge, and it's finally paying off with 2 attempts and 2 successful calls so far.
At their game before Christmas break, that same attitude did not work out for him so well. He was actually called not in his favor, but tonight it's actually working out perfectly.
And in recent games, he'd get called many blocking calls throughout the game. That pass is nearly tipped. That's a deep three from Kuhn. Banks off, no good. So Manchester catches HK a bit off guard on defense, and that'll call a timeout from HK. Halfway through the second quarter, 34-10. Not much you can change here from HK. Manchester shouldn't change anything.
The problem we're seeing for HK, even though they're overwhelmed with Manchester, they're not actually getting that many shots up. Sometimes they don't have the opportunity, but even if they shoot, even if it's quick and not necessarily planted and planned out, I mean, they're going to need any shots they can at this point. Even if they're not 100%, they're going to need to put them up.
It's true. They're just going to get the ball stolen, it seems like. If they just pass the ball, they're trying to do what Manchester's doing with these large arcing passes back and forth. And it's not working. They'll try to dribble the ball in, and they'll get caught from behind.
If HK is able to shorten up their passes, they're definitely going to have a lot more luck because they're not going to have the same arc that Manchester that we are seeing so far.
Short, concise passes, 1 or 2 passes per shot. You don't need to do that extra pass for the shot. You just take it yourself, 1 or 2 passes, and I think that's where HK will find the most success.
If they're able to shoot before Manchester gets all the way back and has their play already set up, ready to go, that's where I think HK is going to have the most success at this point.
So coming out of the timeout, it'll be white ball underneath. So that is a legal play because after a made basket, you are allowed to pass the ball on the baseline out of bounds.
Darren Hiller tries to make a shot and is blocked by number 23 on Manchester. Coming back, 42 passes into Darren, and they are going to come back. We're going to see probably doubled up on 42.
Bit of trickery coming out of HK out of the timeout. So Manchester, his foot is on the line. They'll call it a 2. Won't fall. Driving, pass outside. Wow, bank shot. That will be 2. Shot won't fall. Manchester's hustling back, and it's a wide open lane, and it won't fall. Rebounded by Parmentier. Wide open layup, won't go. Parmentier passes it right into the hands of Manchester, and it's 1-on-1 as the ball will somehow find its way in bounds.
They're going to need to slow it down and be able to get some control right now.
Matt Wills, short range, won't fall. Kaufman set to check in. And that pass will sail out of bounds, going to HK.
Zach Kaufman is subbing in for Matt Wills, finally taking his break. It's first time in the first half.
They're definitely asking a lot of Matt Wills. As you see, Jackson was out of bounds on that play again to try to play that same trick. We'll have to get in the rule book on that one. I've never seen that play.
Number 34, Zach Kaufman, is able to get the rebound for HK.
So going back to that trick play, I think it's after a made basket, you can run up and down the baseline. And I'm guessing, based off the no call, that you can pass it out of bounds as well. And on that last play, where Jackson did shoot down out of bounds, there was no made basket. The pass was just out of bounds. So we're going to go with that for now, as we don't have a high school rule book with us. But we're going to go with that for now.
We might see it again, considering it has been successful both times
so
far.
Let's see if we see a trend at all. To 12 at the 2-minute mark, first half. HK playing a 3-2-2-1-2 type defense. As that's successful, gets that ball to Parmentier, and it's knocked away, but he'll recover.
This is one of the first time he's been able to get over the line without someone pressing him that hard. So a call on Manchester.
back HK to the line. More and more subs for Manchester. So 2 more shots go down for HK, 38-14, a minute 30 to go in the half.
5 of HK's points have actually been foul shots so far, so any of those that we can get at this point are really going to help us out.
We will take anything at this point, you're right. Fast passes inside, and the foul. Fast, sharp passes from Manchester, getting the ball inside, drawing the foul. Trying to set up a play before they even get past the half-court line. And that will be stolen. Put up, and another foul. And 1 for Manchester. First one falls, 44-14. That's a 3 for HK. Won't fall. Rebounded. Almost rebounded, I should say, by Toby Callender. He had it in his hands. It's a deep ball. Taken all the way in. And another foul on the shot. Almost surprise coming out of the Manchester team. Still showing a full court press, even with the lead as it is.
Their press has been very successful so far, though.
You got to back off at some point, you would think. 44-14 with 30 seconds left in the first half. They're still going to go for it.
You'd think that they would take it off at least in the second half is what I'm hoping we'll see. Maybe they'll get back in a zone and maybe ease up a little bit if they do continue to press.
So we'll see another couple shots here from Manchester. So we'll give it to HK with 33.8 seconds to go. Hard defense from Manchester. Dribbles off the foot, and it'll be Manchester's ball. No effort from the Manchester offense right now. Nobody's moving. 10 seconds to go. They finally pick up the pace. And that's knocked away. Passed up to Hiller, and it's stolen. 3 seconds to play. He's on the ground, won't fall. Final shot is tipped away. And it's now halftime. 44-14 at the half. Jackson Parmentier viciously runs into the locker room. I cannot imagine he'd be very happy. As his senior season, the season going as it is, no one could.
Especially with a 30-point lead from Manchester, and not even at the end of the game, only at the end of the first half.
So I can't imagine Manchester's going to want to change much coming out of this halftime. HK with everything to change.
This would be a good opportunity for Manchester to put in some of their younger players to even get some varsity time, but I don't know if they're going to let up on their press in the second half.
That's an interesting point. I hope to see them let up the press and have a half-court game going. All right, so now we are going to head over to a Killingworth 350th documentary.
Well, this is our 350th anniversary, but actually we were settled a little earlier, 1663. But in 1667, the General Assembly named the town Killingworth, and so we usually use that date for the founding of the town. Most of the settlers were farmers in those days. The southern part of town, they were mostly farmers, but they got more into commerce and trade, you know, obviously because they were on the water. It wasn't until about after 1700 that the children and grandchildren of the first settlers started moving north because they needed land for farming. And so after a while, there were a fair number of people living up in the northern part of town. But in those days, you had to go to church and you had to go to the town meetings. You could be fined if you didn't go. So that meant that the people up north had to travel down south to what is Clinton. And that was sometimes very difficult, especially in winter. There was no nice Route 81 in those days. There were just these muddy tracks. And so they petitioned the General Assembly to be able to form a separate ecclesiastical society. And that was granted in 1735. And the North became the second ecclesiastical society. The South was the first ecclesiastical society. And the second society eventually became Killingworth, the same boundaries and everything. After a while, the towns became sort of roughly equal in population, and the southern part, because they were much more involved in trade and commerce, wanted to split from the north and form their own town. There's different reasons for it. The north and the south were different politically. The north didn't want to split, but the legislature granted a split in 1838. And the North retained the name Killingworth, which was good. And that's where the South assumed the name Clinton. They also got the original town records, 2 representatives to the General Assembly, and still rights to the town beach and wharf. And people still have that right if they want to go down to Clinton. They just have to get a permit. The population at the time of the split was about 1,200 people in the Killingworth, and it gradually began to decline. The low point was actually 1930 census then. There were about 560 people living in town.
My name is Betty Goot. I was born and raised in Killingworth. I went to 3 of the one-room schoolhouses and had one teacher for 5 years, and 4 of us went all through 12 years of school together. When I was a little girl, we had no running water, we had no electricity, and the road by my house was dirt.
I'm Marty Mackold, and I've lived in Killingworth. I was born here. I moved out for a short time, and I moved back, and I've been here ever since.
It wasn't until the 1950s that population began increasing, and that was helped a lot by the turnpike. You know, there was a trend then for people to move out of the cities and into the suburbs. And Killingworth was a nice, remote, undeveloped town.
I worked there in 1957. I worked as a gopher for the carpenters. And then when it opened, I went to work there as a cowboy. I was either a sheriff or a deputy or an outlaw. Rode horses, robbed banks, robbed stagecoaches, and just had a good old time. Got to play cowboys and get paid for it.
There was really a huge amount of growth in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it's kind of leveled off the last 5 to 10 years. The population now is about 6,500. And so you compare that's 10 times as many as in 1930.
Well, it's a lot of changes and everything, and big houses now and everything, and a big school, and even a high school, you know, and we didn't have that. I had to go to high school in Madison, and there were 34 of us from Killingworth and Madison who graduated, and there was just 8 from Killingworth.
When I was growing up, there was a lot of dirt roads, which are now all tar. We never had anything like this Parmley farm that I am so proud of. And also I'm very proud of our historical society because we've saved a lot of stuff that would have been otherwise destroyed.
Well, I think it brings the people who've been here their whole lives and the new residents together and tells them that we value the history and we value the future.
You know, it's good to have such a turnout and people being interested in the history of the town because we want to preserve it the way it is.
We started working on this a couple of years ago, and we have a fantastic committee with representatives from a bunch of local organizations. Everybody's just done unbelievable amounts of work. Well, we had probably the biggest parade Killingworth has seen in its 350 years. We had over 40 vintage vehicles, 10 floats, 2 fife and drum corps, a couple of bands. It was really, it was wonderful. And of course all the local teams and the fire company and the ambulance corps, and everybody's so happy. It was wonderful to see them along the parade route. It was just a great group.
And this is a very special place, and we're really honored to be here, and we wish everybody in Killingworth the very best for the future.
Just one of the most beautiful places in the universe as far as I'm concerned.
A small town, just living without all this ruckus that goes on in these big towns or big cities. This is just great living, you know.
And then, of course, the community. People are willing to step up. It's not a fancy community. It's not a status-conscious community. It just pulls people together. And I've heard from so many people who've moved here. I've been here for 21 years. I'm still a newcomer. But I've heard people who came in the last year or two, and they just are amazed at the welcome that they receive.
I see you again.
All right, so we are back from our halftime break. And Hattie is going to tell us some upcoming games from both teams.
So for HK, tomorrow night they play Valley Regional at home. On Saturday they play Creed away at Fairhaven School. On Monday the 15th they play Coggins away. And on Thursday they play East Hampton at home. As far as Manchester, tomorrow night they play South Windsor at home. And then on Tuesday, which is the 16th, they play Plainville at home as well.
All right, so we're right back at it into the second half of play. 44-14, Manchester on top. And Manchester will start with the ball at half court. A little bit smaller lineup coming from Manchester. Looking inside, back out. And they're going to call a travel. So potentially now, with Manchester dropping down to their lower tier players, we might be seeing some more calls, such as a travel or some more miscues on the Manchester side. Rebounded by Toby Callender. Passed out to Darren. Over to Jackson. And Jackson will put him up, and it won't fall. But he'll take his own rebound, and he'll fight for his own shot, but it won't fall, and there's no foul. But then he'll be called on a foul, going for the ball aggressively. So that's Jackson Parmentier's fourth foul of the game. We saw last night a star player, Deja Rich, getting fouled out early. Now it's the same story for the boys team as Jackson Parmentier has one to give. None to give, really. One to give, he's going to be fouled out.
That'll definitely change a lot of things for HK as well, considering Jackson's the main ball handler on the court right now.
Three for Manchester won't go. Rebounded by Callender. We'll see a lot more of Hiller and most likely Andrew Kuhn. This is the three from Hiller. Knocked around, rebounded, and he'll take another three. That time it'll fall. HK will grab the first points of the second half.
Manchester has definitely slowed down, which is helping HK a lot already.
Much slower pace, and that's a three, and it's too deep. Offensive rebound. A much slower paced. They're not even really running an own play, as it falls almost dead silent inside the gym. Manchester will take a three, short, rebounded by Wills. And he'll take it down, double teamed instantly. And right as there is a steal, there will be a foul.
Even with the Manchester's shorter players in there, still pressing.
And we were considering that not happening in the second half, but 44-17, they still have a reason to do so. Jackson Parmentier being dangerously close, and he gets hammered at midcourt. Parmentier taking a beating. 3 charges, a couple blocking calls on offense. Hiller drives in. Off to Parmentier. He'll take a contested three. And it tips away. No good as Manchester quickly retreats on offense. Inside, down low. And a foul, no shot, as the foul is on the floor. Oh, an easy opportunity gets his own rebound, and he puts it back in. He caught Matt Wills completely off guard as he had his back to the play. A pass to Toby Callender, gets it. Andrew Kuhn for 3. Bang, he hit it. Andrew Kuhn's got 6 points in the second half. 46-20, halfway through the third. Driving right through and denied by Callender. HK offensively and defensively definitely getting back on their feet. To Wills, he'll take a quick turnaround shot, rebounded by Manchester. Pretty wide open 3, and it'll fall. 49-20. It's an interesting press that Manchester's giving now. They're meeting them at the half-court line as Manchester will sub in an almost entirely new lineup, 4 men in and 4 men out. The only constant is the inbounder. But the press that we're seeing starts basically at half-court. It's not a half-court press, really. They meet them there, and they won't let them get in to make a play. It's interesting. We'll see it next time HK comes down on offense. HK just seems to be on a 2-1-2, 3-2 type zone. It's almost a rotating 3-2 to 2-3. A travel call, no shot. So they will have a full court press here.
There are 4 new people subbed in, though, so it might change the way they play defensively.
Kuhn seems to be taking the primary ball handling alongside Darren. As Manchester breaks 50 points. That's a 3. Won't go. Running right through the HK defense for another lay-in. You see they're trapping them almost at half court, and that's a 3 from Matt Wills. Little short rebounded by Callender. He can't put it in. 2 chances from HK, won't go. Rebounded by Callender, and a push out of bounds. That'll be HK ball. More subs for Manchester. So with Jackson Parmentier being out, Toby drives, passes it over to Wills. Pass that out, and it's stolen. Tipped up, and here we go. He lays it in. And a quick turnaround for HK, trying to catch the Manchester defense off guard. Darren will drive, take it himself, and he'll lay it in. A lot more fast-paced offense is what HK needs to do. But going back to Jackson Parmentier being on the bench, it has proven that Darren and Andrew Kuhn and even Matt Wills have been the 3 primary ball handlers, and Toby has been a real standout defensively so far. That's a 3, and it falls for HK. All their points coming away the 3 so far in the second half. Manchester sticking with the slow-paced offense. Slow cuts, not many picks. Double team there from HK. Backed out for 3, and he gets stuck in the basket. That's pretty interesting. Easily knocked that out, and here comes Trey Callender. Number 55 is checking in for his brother, Toby Callender. So Trey, he's a sophomore. He's definitely a big man. So HK checking into their JV subs now as Andrew Kuhn misses a 3. And Manchester is just having a field day right now with under a minute to go in the third. Easy passes, easy steals. A little bit of fun, and there's Trey Callender. He puts it up, and the foul for Trey. Trey Callender some varsity minutes, and he gets an and one in hopes of a 3-point play.
And they're subbing in Zach Kaufman for Darren Hiller, Matt Wills, and Colin O'Brien is going in.
So Trey can't execute the 3-point play, but he's playing well in his first varsity minutes. That ball won't drip in. Jump ball, Manchester ball. Big passes for Manchester. Driving in, dipping in. Foul called. Manchester's ball underneath. Let's reset, put it up top. Lots of ball moving up top, and it'll end with a 3. Won't fall. And that'll get it off to Colin O'Brien. But not in time, as the quarter will come to an end. 57-27. A large spread as the fourth quarter is set to start. So it's a race to the finish at this point. Both teams are Manchester 50-57, HK 27. Each is going to race to the finish at this point.
What I've noticed a lot last quarter, especially, is Matt Wills. He's keeps rotating roles. With the coach taking Jackson out, he has to step up, play point guard, and then when they put people like Trey and Toby in, he's got to get back up to where he was guarding before. And that's been helping them. And since Manchester slowed it down as well, that's definitely helping HK get some more shots up.
We're definitely going to see more and more subs. We've seen a lot of subs already for Manchester, but we saw Trey and Colin check in for HK. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw at least another 5 JV members check into this game, if not an entirely new lineup to start the fourth. But I would imagine they keep Matt Wills in the lineup and probably start Jackson in this quarter.
Jackson does have to be careful in this last quarter, however, because he could foul out if he's not careful.
All right, so we're going to see Jackson and Matt remain in the lineup with a pretty consistent lineup that we've seen throughout the game. Jackson does still have 4 fouls. Trying to get that into Toby. Loose ball. Toby will recover. Passing to Kaufman. He loses it. And that's a 3. And it's good. 57-30. Manchester trying to get the next pass and the foul. Manchester has executed so many shots after the hit in this game. A successful 3-point play. Parmentier will take it from the top. That's another three. A little short, I believe it was deflected. Out of bounds, white ball, so HK will have it underneath. And that ball will instantly be stolen. It's a wide open lane. 2-on-1. And it dips in. 62-30. A lot of noise coming from the Manchester sidelines.
Manchester is actually pressing more than I thought they would this late in the game, especially with the score being the way it is.
I imagine a lot of that will be kept because younger players, JV players are in now, keeping it consistent with what they will be playing when they get up to the varsity level.
They've definitely noticed that Jackson and Matt are putting up most of the points here, so they seem to be pressing them more than some of the other players.
Get it inside to Toby. Matt Wills for three. Tipped out of bounds, HK ball. Rebounded inside. Matt Wills. Zach Kaufman will take it himself. And a block is called. Zach Kaufman will take it at the line. Sinks the first. Hits them both. Not a lot happening on either side offensively. Lots of slow-paced play.
Both teams are capitalizing on those small mistakes, as I said before.
Lots of steals going on both sides right now. Pass inside to Calendar, and there we go, another steal. A lot of no-look passes for Manchester, and another foul. Jackson Parmentier takes the hit. Slow to get up, but he'll get back into the play. Wide open three for Manchester, and it's good. That'll be their 65th point of the night. And a full timeout called by Coach Abbott of HK. So we're about halfway through the fourth quarter. Not much happening on both sides. So as a former player, how do you take a game like this in such a fashion that they're taking it right now?
I mean, the important thing is, at this point, HK, we pretty much know we're not going to get back that big of a 33-point lead from Manchester, but you have to still keep playing with as much effort as you went in with at the beginning, because you can't just give up just because Manchester is pressing this much and that they're getting this many points up. If you just give up now, you're not going to be able to even remotely get the score up for HK.
It's a tough game also because it's not just the game, it's the season that HK is having so far. They're 0-7, looking at an 0-8 start. We're almost halfway through the season, a 20-game season. It's going to be hard to reset after this because it's not like, okay, this isn't a Shoreline game, so it doesn't mean much to their Shoreline record. But when you get to this point of the season, you're 0-8, and you take a hard loss like this, it's not easy to come back at all for the rest of the year.
It's hard, but as you said, I think that Matt and Jackson will definitely be able to keep the players' spirits up after this. Those are sometimes it's one of the only things that'll get you through to the next game. I know that when I played Megan O'Brien and Anna Bruder, they always kept us up and ready to go.
That's all they need. Trey Callender fouled. He'll be sent back to the line. It's the strong leadership that'll. We know Coach Abbott's a good coach. He's a good leader. It is his first season. He's dealing with a tough lineup after losing the 8 seniors that they lost last year. And that group of 8 seniors with the 4 starters, they played with each other from the beginning, from the rec days. They started then, and they played all the way up until their senior season. So it's hard to replicate what they had last year, and to start a new season with a brand new coaching staff and with a bunch of kids that haven't really played together all that much, it's tough for HK to. HK basketball hasn't been in the rebuilding phase in a long time.
The good thing about this lineup this year is right now we're seeing mostly juniors and sophomores on the court. And yes, Jackson and Matt are out there whenever they can be, but really next year they're going to be relying on these guys that are out there right now. And if they don't have the experience, they're not going to be ready for next year.
Coach Abbott's playing them well. They're playing as much as they can together, as much time as they can in a varsity atmosphere. And they're not going to find a much better team than Manchester right now. In the state of Connecticut, you're not going to find a better team. So that's an aggressive jump ball as Nick Pacina's ripped to the floor.
Manchester subbing in another one of their JV players, number 13.
Lots of passing. That's a 3 for Manchester. Offensive rebound put up, and a foul is called on Nick Pacina. Sending Manchester back to the line. Sam Erskine checking into the game, number 35. (67-32), 3:51 to play in the game. So Manchester's bench is avidly calling for fouls still with the lead as it is, and that cannot be to the pleasure of the HK's fans or the sideline. Not much is going their way tonight. Pass deep inside, and they'll just keep passing it. And it'll end with a 3. Won't go.
Nick Pacina was just put in for the 4th quarter for his first varsity minutes, and it seems that he's spent most of it on the ground. He's just being absolutely thrown around by Manchester so far.
Taking the role of Jackson Parmentier. He always seems to be on the floor. And Oliver Artis, number 20, checking in for his first varsity minutes of the game. He is another senior that we did not mention. He's a first-year player. Oliver with not much basketball experience in his life. But in high school, it's always fun to dabble with as many sports as you can.
He is one of the taller players that is out there right now, actually.
At
so
the moment.
hopefully that'll come to our advantage for rebounding.
And Nick Pacina looked to have a clean block, but they're going to give him a foul. I'm going to call it on Colin O'Brien, actually, not Nick Pacina. That's Colin's 4th foul. Very quiet atmosphere here in the HK gym. Not much emotion from the fan section, or any of the fans for that matter. Most of the noise we're hearing is from the Manchester bench. And Colin O'Brien has a nice spin move, but it won't fall. Quick, fast break for Manchester, and it'll result in some foul shots yet again, going for their 70th point of the night. Most of HK's games that they played so far this year have ended in the 40s, 50s, close to the 60s. And going back to last year, that team had scored close to the 70s, sometimes 80s. So that just shows a numerical value on how much of a team they lost last year. And this game, they scored just 32 so far with 2:30 to play in the fourth. And Manchester has their 69th and 70 points of the night. 70-32.
They've kept a pretty consistent 30-point lead ever since the second quarter.
That ball not going to anyone. Yet again, Manchester will take it. So Manchester's a great team. They have an all-around, really solid team. They play well together. They know each other's strengths. They pass the ball a lot. They have good passes. They clearly have a lot of depth down to their JV team. And they have a bright season in the future for them. They were 6-1 coming into this game. They will finish 7-1. They will remain on top of the leaderboard in the state tournament.
You can definitely tell that the coach for Manchester is very confident in putting whatever player that he wants to in, whether it's JV or varsity. He knows that they have a good chemistry and it won't be a problem for them to just put someone in.
They definitely have a lot of ball handlers, and defensively, they lots of steals. And Colin O'Brien will take a shot, and it'll dip around but won't fall. Manchester will take it. Although they do have a lot of ball handlers, good defensive players, and like we said in the open, and they're a big, big team. Even their JV team. Look at the kids on the court right now. They're a big, big team, as compared to HK at least, but in the other teams in the state, definitely at the shoreline.
Right now, it's all JV for Manchester on the court right now. We saw a lot of number 5 for them, which is Logan Tomlinson. And he was in for almost all of the first, second, and third quarter. But they finally took him out, and I'm noticing a lot less pressing now that he's out.
And there's Trey Callender with his second bucket of the night. With under a minute to go here in the fourth. Trey Callender has played excellent in these varsity minutes that he's seen tonight. Manchester toying with Sam Erskine, playing a man-in-the-middle type of game. And Colin O'Brien will take the steal. And that ball is tipped from under him. And it'll be HK's ball with 20 seconds to go. So Nick Pacino will take a three, won't fall. And Manchester will take it with the last 14 seconds to play. So Manchester will just hold this for the last 14 seconds. So tonight's game went pretty much as well as for HK as it could have been. Unfortunately, we saw a lot of what we expected. Manchester was big, tall, physical. They beat us defensively, beat us offensively. Lots of steals on both sides, really. But Manchester could execute their shots. They got up a lot more shots than HK did.
I mean, I can confidently say, though, HK honestly did as much as they possibly could. They had to be careful with Jackson and Matt with the amount of fouls they had, and they were subbing in the younger players, so that they could get some varsity minutes and get the experience.
So the final seconds. The final score will be 76-34. The Manchester Indians come into HK and take the win. They'll improve to 7-1 on the season. HK will fall to 0-8.
I want to remind you once again of some of the upcoming HK games. Tomorrow night, they will be playing Valley Regional at home. On Saturday, they will be playing Creed away. And then on Monday, Coggins away. And on Thursday, they will be playing East Hampton at home. So plenty of games for them to catch up and hopefully get them a win. As far as Manchester, tomorrow night they will play South Windsor at home. And then on Tuesday, they will play Plainville at home. And then on Friday, they will play East Hartford away at East Hartford High School.
All right, so a lot of big games coming up for both teams. More so Manchester than HK. HK does have some rivalry games. Tomorrow night, home against Valley. That Valley's always a competitive team in all sports here at HK. But I say basketball stands out more in my mind for sure. And for Manchester, each game is going to mean a lot for them upcoming. With 7-1 record, they'll be competing with some undefeated teams at the top of the state and the top of their conference. 8 wins qualifies them for the state tournament, so they are knocking on the door of the state tournament this year yet again. So HK is going to have a tough regroup for sure after this game. So how do you come back from this?
Like I said before, you definitely just have to stay positive and stay motivated throughout this whole season, because even with a losing streak, even waiting for the 7 games for a win, hopefully tomorrow night they can come back and just go into it with wanting that win.
That's a big rebound game for them tomorrow night. They're going to want to come back, get the game, win, hopefully. Valley isn't the sharpest team in the Shoreline, but we hope that they will pull off a game winner maybe tomorrow night, get their first win of the season. So Coach Abbott, he's a HK guy himself. He knows the HK program very well. This has got to hurt for him to start. He come into the season, brand new team, and start 0-8.
I mean, it's his first year, but you can tell even a difference with the team. They're definitely a lot more motivated now, so.
All right, so that is going to be the broadcast tonight. We thank you for watching, and we'd like to remind you that tonight's broadcast was brought to you in part by Zippo6.com. So again, we thank you for watching. Good night.